All right, here we go. So, welcome. Yeah, we're very happy to have you all here. My name is Jen. My pronouns are she and her. I am in Edmonton, Canada, on Treaty 6 territory and the Métis District of the North Saskatchewan River. Feel free to share in the chat where you're coming from. I'm the chair of this book club committee. I'm supported here by Jamie. I don't know, maybe she can wave. So she's keeping an eye on the chat during the event. So this book club is one part of a joint association academic editing group that's between the Editorial Freelancers Association and Editors Canada. Our programming is run by volunteers, so if you would like to help out, please email me directly. Jamie's going to throw my email in the chat there. For those of you who are new to our book club, welcome. The format of today's event will be pretty simple. Our host, Alex, will have a conversation with our guest author, Erin, for the first 30 minutes or so. And then we'll open the floor to take questions from the audience, from all of you, for the remainder of their time, which should be about 25 minutes. Then we'll close out with some admin and call it a day. We have quite a few people here, which is fantastic. Very happy. So if you want to participate in the Q&A, either use the chat or raise your physical or virtual hand. Between Jamie, myself, and Alex, we will do our best, our very best to make sure your input is included. And bonus, stick around till the end because we have a special giveaway for one of the attendees today. So stay tuned for that. So, as mentioned, today our host is Alex Crawley from Lodestar Editing and Coaching. I will give them the floor for more detailed introduction. Over to you, Alex.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Crawley. I am a writing coach and developmental and line editor for traditional and crossover academic works, as well as science fiction fantasy. I live outside Seattle on the ancestral lands of the Duwamish. And on that note, if you're also a Seattle area editor and you have not checked out the Duwamish Real Rent program or their Longhouse Cultural Center and art fairs, I super recommend them. All donations and proceeds go to support their tribal services and support their bid for federal recognition. Today, we are delighted to have Erin Brenner with us. Erin is the author of the Chicago Guide for Freelance Editors, a step-by-step guide that helps editors launch a freelance business and grow it to a sustainable level. Erin offers coaching and webinars to help editors on their journey to a business they love. She is also the owner of Right Touch Editing, an editorial agency that specializes in working with businesses, nonprofits, think tanks, government agencies, and more. Right Touch Editing helps clients reach their publishing goals with proven writing and editing services. Erin is the 2024 winner of the Robinson Prize given by ACES. She is an advanced professional member of the Chartered Institute for Editing and Proofreading and a full member of ACES. And when she is not working, Erin enjoys knitting, reading, hiking, and traveling with a mug of tea in hand. And I found out right before the chat, the tea of choice is gunpowder green. All right, so now to our discussion. So the first question for you, Erin. The book focuses largely on early career editors, as it should, but I'm wondering what advice you have for folks at maybe the 5 and 10-year stages. What kinds of SMART goals and quarterly planning did you do or wish you would have done in those milestones to help prepare for your future?
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, the kind of goals I wish I had done because I learned all of this the hard way, as so many of us do.
Yes.
Um, but I did, thinking a lot about where those high points in my career, those points in my career where I step back. I do think it's always good to step back once in a while, every few years to go, where am I at? What am I doing? Do I still like this?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at what works well in a big way, right? We should always be looking at what works well and what doesn't work well, in our kind of everyday. But every so often, we need to really step back and go, do I like doing the copy editing of these kind of manuscripts day in and day out? Or am I doing it and pushing down the feeling that I don't want to do this anymore. And we
Yeah.
really need to pause, right? To go, oh, do I like this? In my own career, I started in 2005 part-time, and it took me 4 or 5 years before I was ready to go full-time. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But once I was full-time, things have changed a lot. I started working on copyeditor.com. I think that was about 2011, 2012. So that was in addition to doing the editing. I started teaching for the University of California, San Diego about that time. And so I was doing more than just editing. And it did get to a point where I had to step back and go, oh, I don't think I like this anymore. This is a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and I stopped working for UCSD, but then Laura Poole and I decided, oh, we're going to purchase copyediting.com because we can do more with it. Uh, and so, okay, what did that mean for my business? And when we eventually sold copy editing in 2018, it was another moment to step back and go, what do I want to do now? Right.
Mhm.
And I feel like it can feel just so overwhelming, or at least it has for me, or I don't know what I want to do. When we sold copy editing, I also lost my father at that point, and that was, a surprise. It was um, a quick leaving of us, and it left me unmoored. I didn't know what I
Mhm.
wanted to do. I took a good year to work with not one but three business coaches.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
you work with somebody, you go, okay, and you just keep filling the need. Where am I stuck now? Who do I need to work with? What do I need to do? Um, and bumbling around until I had an idea, I had something that felt good, and then saying, okay, now how am I gonna do this? And now I can make goals, and now I can make plans. And I don't know that I could have avoided those things, but I think if we do take a step back every few years and go, where am I at?
Right. To make sure you're still aligned as a person with the goals of your business.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. Next question. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So I'm curious how editors should prepare for the natural ebb and flow of types of business. You did just kind of talk about this, but sometimes we'll get more coaching one year and more copy editing the next, or we'll have shifts in the length of projects we're working on. So how do you keep an agile mindset and then also create the file structures and the planning documents that you talk about in your book?
I think I think we first have to be aware that there's an ebb and flow going on, right? We can get lost in the day-to-day details, and we might not realize that, oh, I really haven't had a lot of this line of business. I haven't had a lot of copy editing lately, or haven't had a lot of coaching lately. Why is that? Right?
Okay.
So tracking things, getting an early indicator that things are shifting, and thinking about why they might be shifting. Is that something you can control and can do something about? Or is it something that is out of your control? And how would you like to react to it? The keeping an eye on those things lets you understand them sooner and make adjustments to your business. And I just am a firm believer that if we take a step back once a month, once a quarter, and build in that time, then we can set goals like, I'm going to set up a new process. I'm going to take this course so I can make this shift that I think is coming. Um, Early this year, I spent a lot of time doing professional development around AI. Not so, a little bit about how do you edit with it, but more about what am I using it for? How can I use it in my business? What are the threats to us? What are people saying about it? What does the market look like? Just kind of trying to wrap my arms around it because we're going to have to deal with this somehow, some way, and doing a lot of thinking about it and what my
Mhm.
policies would be. Um, and so, it hasn't all played out yet, but I feel like I have somewhat of a foundation to be working on, and I can pause, my monthly reviews or my quarterly reviews and say, where am I at with that? What kind of goals
Okay.
do I have towards that?
That makes sense. So having a foundational backend really helps you figure out those early indicators so then you can react with that agile mindset. So you don't ever get caught out, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. What advice would you give to someone stuck in the perennial feast and famine editing cycle? And how does your book help cultivate better balance when, you know, around that?
So I think we all experience feast and famine to some degree. I think all businesses do. They go through cycles, they go through seasons. Um, we need to be aware of them. And we need to, again, try and find out if we can, why it's happening, right? Are you not getting a lot of leads in, which is leading to not having enough work? And if that's an issue, what can you do to get more leads then? And to get good quality leads in, because no one wants to waste time. Um, or maybe you get busy and you don't market as much, or you don't follow up with something. Where, you know, is it something you're doing that you can shift? But sometimes it's out of our control, right? Maybe your niche
Hmm.
is changing. Maybe um, we're pretty sure AI is having an effect on all of us, right? How much is that? And it's not all knowable, but trying to at least have a theory of why you're going through a feast or famine. And then um, what can you do to adjust for that, right? And what you do may not work, right?
Right.
You got to test things out. Um, and I think we have a real fear of failure in our culture.
Yeah.
And as business owners, we need to get over it. You have to test. You have to, not all tests work out. It doesn't mean you're a bad business person. It doesn't mean you're a terrible person. You're incompetent. It means something didn't work out.
Right.
Try something else.
Learning opportunities.
Absolutely. Shift your mindset.
Okay. Thank you. Um, so let's say an editor has, so your book is divided up into sections, which is super
Yes.
helpful. And sections 1 and 2 kind of set you up. So let's say
Mhm.
that you are at the end of those, you have some clients lined up at rates you're happy with, you have a pretty good idea of marketing, um, and you're going to be pressed for time shortly because you're getting clients in. So what chapters in section 3 would you prioritize in the spare hours? Like, what are some of the foundational back-end processes that really support things that are more like later priorities?
Creating your goals, right? Map out. You've got all these things to do. You're never going to be able to do them all in a day or a year. They take time. We have to be okay with that. So by creating our goals, what's most important to me, um, for some people, setting up an ergonomic desk space, workspace is really crucial to them being able to focus and do the work. For other people, they can work at their kitchen table or on the couch, it doesn't matter. So what would help you feel more, not just feel organized, but be more organized and do your best work and do your best thinking, right? So looking at the whole and making a plan, making some goals and sketching out how you get to them, right? Which one seems most important to you, prioritizing them. But a lot of tasks are going to be pecking away at them. Maybe you've set up your folder structure, but you don't have labels or tags for your email yet. Maybe you're going to schedule some time this month or next month to just tackle that. You're going to look at how can I tag my email. But by having a list, you can then prioritize and you can also identify those things that take less than an hour. They take 15 minutes. You've got a little time. Oh, I'm going to cross this item off my list. I'm getting it done. I
Okay,
love being able to identify those little things.
that makes a lot of sense. Because it does get overwhelming and you forget that you have little spare moments between other things.
Yeah. But you know what? It's going to take time.
Yeah.
You're building it and it doesn't happen in a day.
Okay.
And we have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious about in the writing of this book, was there any concept, tool, or topic that like really became clear to you as you were distilling it down and deciding what's the absolute most important part of this? Like, where did you gain clarity as you were writing this book?
There were a couple of chapters that really sharpened once I started the writing process and doing some additional research. One was chapter 13, which is about difficult clients. Um, because we all casually hear horror stories and we have our own horror stories, but I really wanted to get an idea of what do most editors experience or what's common out there. And how do we all have different ways of approaching things? What does that look like? So it really helped me doing the research, which was really just paying attention in all the various editing groups. You go, oh, what are people complaining about? Oh, that's a good problem. Oh, how did they solve that? And you start to see patterns. And so that's how I ended up organizing the different kinds of issues, because you're never going to cover everything, but there are patterns.
Hmm.
Um, and in the end, the solution is almost always we have to listen and acknowledge. If we acknowledge, someone's got an issue with us, that can help them be more receptive. But if you can't find a way to negotiate without, I don't want to say debasing yourself, but giving away too much and devaluing your work, then you have to say no, thank you. And that's the hard part, is how do we do that? Let's say, you know what, I'm done. and how to do that gracefully, which is generally not to over explain, to you know say what you have to say, and not engage in any conversation that's going poorly. The other chapter was the last chapter on self-care,
Okay.
because we all have our own ways to care for ourselves, but I really wanted to understand better about stress and emphasize what it does to us over the long term, and look at different ways to care for ourselves. I know how I care for myself, but being able to do some research and see what do other editors do, and guide people into find what works for you, is to me much more important than saying, well, this is what I do.
Right, right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Um, so in my own editing certification program, definitely the two most popular questions were how do we set rates and how do we find clients? And I think that those get a lot of attention. And so I'm curious, if you met with a new editor, what would you argue is the most important question for them to ask themselves beyond those?
You're right. Those questions are so popular. You hear them all the time. I think have to back up. I think you first have to know, what is it you're offering? What do you want to do? Do you want to copy edit? Do you want to do developmental editing? Um, what kind of copy do you want to work on? What kind of clients do you want to work for? When you think about your ideal work situation, your ideal work, what does that look like? Because you can't go find it until you've defined it, right? So those to me, that to me is the thing you got to do first. And the other thing I would say is you have to define what success is going to look like for you. No one's going to make millions of dollars doing this,
Hmm.
but we are all in it for the money. So financial gain is absolutely part of it, but there has to be something else. Why are you doing all the hard work of running a business? If you know there's another motivator, if you know there's another way that you will feel successful, um, you can work towards it and you'll recognize it when it comes. And I think that's really important.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's hard to remember in that early stage that you are supposed to be daydreaming a little bit. So that's a really, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Thank you.
We should always be daydreaming a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that permission. I'm going to do more of it.
Good for you.
Um, I also wanted to ask your opinion on niching down as an editor because I think we often hear that as well. So, do you recommend branding that allows us to showcase our skills and our personality as interests shift over time? Or do you think branding should also account for niche?
Yes. So your brand should represent you, and you will change over time, but who you are as a professional, or who you are as a person when that is an important part of what you do. But we should also be building brands where our ideal client recognizes themselves. It speaks to them. Because there are lots of editors out there. And maybe the thing you want to be known for as a person, as a professional, a lot of editors do. What makes you the right match? So I think there has to be a balance there. I also think it's okay to change your brand. Big companies do it all the time. Um, Starbucks used to be a place where you went and you sat for a while and you had nice conversations. It was a lovely atmosphere. And now their brand is really just all about getting your daily cup of coffee and go. You're in and out. They're not comfortable places to sit in anymore. They at least the ones around here when they've rehabbed them, they're stark, they're cold, they're in and out. So they've changed their brand over time, and that's okay. So
Okay.
we want to be able to work on that.
All right, so you can build some flexibility into it, make sure
Mhm.
that it's true to you at your various stages as you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I'm going to ask one more question before we open the floor for discussion. And I am really curious to know, I mean, you can't put everything you want to put in a book. So, what piece of advice or discussion topic did you have to leave out of the book in the interest of space that you would just absolutely love to talk about here?
So as I wrote the book, I had a running list of things that you have to hand in a very specific outline before you get the contract for the book. So I knew what I had to write about, and so I was keeping a list. And I think one thing we don't talk about is is it time to close my business?
Okay.
There, I have seen some editors, kind of announce in the groups when they're going to shift back to a full-time job or they're going to retire or what have you. And especially if they're going back to an employee position, sometimes they feel a little shamed about it. Like, I've failed and I have to go back to work. And I don't think we should feel that way. We have seasons, we shift, our needs change. Um, a lot of Most businesses fail within the first 3 years. It's a learning process. And so it should be okay if it's time to ask whether or not you're going back to an employee position or you're going to do something completely different. You're going to leave editing. Um, and I think it should be okay for us to 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 stop and look, right? To think about it. Think about, how do I feel about my business? How do I feel about doing it every day? Oh, am I meeting those personal success goals? What do I think success looks like? And am I happy doing this? Could I be doing
Yeah.
something else? Um, and to get outside opinion, right? I think we can get lost in the details. We can get lost in our own heads, and it's really helpful to have someone else from the outside help you answer that question. And am I nuts? What's going on here?
Hmm.
And to give you just to hold up a mirror for you. Um, but businesses change, people change, and if it's not for you anymore, that's okay.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think in general, your answers have really spoke to self-awareness, to giving ourselves grace, to
Mhm.
remembering that this is a project that we wanted to be doing, and therefore it's up to us if we choose to change it in some way. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's really lovely. Thank you. This is great.
Sure.
I really enjoyed asking you a bunch of questions. Um, so we are going to open it up to the floor for questions now, right, Jen? Is that about right? So you can use the Zoom raise hand feature, or you can pose your question in the chat. Um, and I'm not sure, how do I see folks to call on them?
Well, if they raise their hand, you should be able to see all of the participants and they'll be put at the top of the list. Otherwise, yeah, if anyone puts questions into the Zoom, we'll copy those out and Alex will have access to them in the document that they have their questions in.
Okay. Let me go back to that then.
But maybe I'll start off with a question while folks are still thinking. Erin, I'm curious, you provide so many resources and references in this book, and I'm just wondering, similar to the recent question about, include what to include and what not to include, how did you decide what references and resources to include in there?
Oh. There's certainly my most favorite references would be in there. And resources I knew would be valuable to other editors. So it meant that I knew other editors used them and had good results with them, or I was familiar with how the program worked, um, and felt that yes, that does what I think it should do, or it's well worth it. A lot of them are just these are my favorites.
That's fun. All right. It looks like we have a hand up from another Alex.
Hello. I was just wondering, Erin, so especially in maybe the earlier stages of freelance editing, you're bombarded with resources, with books, with programs, many of them with subscription fees, courses, the like. How do you determine, or how have you found success in determining essentially what to invest in and how to balance the needing money for your business and for life, and then needing money to invest in growing your business?
That's a really good question because I doesn't matter what stage of your business you're at, there's more stuff out there than you can afford. So I'm always reevaluating what I subscribe to, what I purchase. I think at first you need to have a budget. So knowing how much you have to spend on resources and professional development and all the different categories where we spend money. And starting to prioritize what's going to be the most useful to you. If you are using the Chicago Manual Style, it could be really helpful to have the subscription. But then again, if you're a paper book person and you prefer looking things up, you just buy the book, right? And it's all these silly, I don't want to say silly, but all these small decisions we make, what will help you the most? I have a spreadsheet of all the software and the subscriptions I have. And it includes not just the annual fees so that I can compare what I use it for, what it integrates with, right? So how much use am I getting out of it? So hopefully I can catch those things where, oh, I haven't opened that app in 6 months. Why am I paying for this? Get rid of it. I think when you're starting out, it's where your pain points are the most, right? Your dictionary, your style guide, these are really important tools. We want to prioritize those. Having the most up-to-date software and a computer that is reliable, internet service that is reliable, because this is how you are doing your business. Staying up to date with the technology you depend on day in and day out. I think we can put off updating, but I know, especially with Microsoft, the updates can be a pain and nuts, and they'll change things. Oh, modern comments. Why? Um, but those updates also plug security holes, and there are new security threats every day because we're always a step behind the bad guys. So keeping up on your technology, making sure it's up to date, that's really important for the security of your business.
Makes sense. Looks like we have a question from the chat. Someone wonders, how much input did the publisher or your editor have once you submitted your outline, given that you are the expert here? How did that process go?
So once I had the contract and they had approved my proposal, which includes the outline, I wrote the book, and then the first review is with the managing editor essentially. And yeah, she had some input on um, where topics could be strengthened, what things could be dropped, and that completed manuscript still had to go through um, 3 readers and then a board vote.
Wow.
Yeah, there are
Dang.
yeah, there are hurdles to jump. Um, but Mary, who's my editor, she's just really good at this. She's really tuned into editors, and she wants the book to pass muster. She wants the book to um, sell well and be a good reflection on the press. And so she's invested in working with authors on that. I don't recall that there was a lot of changes from her. We did the peer reviews, and everybody writes a report, and I take there are three. They send it out to 3 people, so I take 3 reports and go, okay, what am I going to do with it? And I try and make good decisions about what would help and what would not help. And almost before we got to copy editing, we had to stop and go, what are we going to say about AI? She said, I think we really have to address it, but it's a book and we don't want to address it too much. Oh my gosh. And I don't know as I would have thought to do that, but she's looking ahead at where things are going, and that was really valuable input. And I addressed it a little bit, as much as I could. What was that, 2, 3 years ago now? So
Yeah.
everything's changed again and again.
Right, but if she hadn't said that, if she hadn't put that in, then it could make your book look more outdated. So,
Exactly.
like, good grab from her.
Absolutely.
All right. Do we have other questions from the chat? Other hands up? I don't see anything at the moment. So I guess in that case, Erin, while we're waiting for more questions to come in, what do you want to talk about regarding your book? Was there a question you wish I would have asked?
Not that I can think of it. Your questions were really, really thoughtful. Um, I'm just hopeful that it's a resource that doesn't overwhelm people, that they feel free to read a chapter, maybe put something into practice, put it down if you come back to it, right? Jump in and out as needed. And I tried to make it work that way so you could, or you could at least skip to the end of the chapter. Okay, this is what it covers. I don't need this right now. I'm going to skip that chapter.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. I think that's okay to do, to be flexible so that you are building your business the way you need to, you know?
I really loved those key takeaways. I thought that was super useful.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
We have a hand up from Jen.
Me again, yep. I was wondering, Erin, if you could speak a bit about business retreats. So I have done retreats, in a former life when I worked, for organizations. I'm really bad at doing retreats for my own business. I'm just wondering if you can give any, I don't know, advice, some suggestions, just, encourage me, motivate me to do it.
Yeah.
No pressure.
I mean, a business retreat doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to take, you don't have to take like a week and go move somewhere else. If that helps you, right? To take a weekend or several days and go isolate yourself. So if that's the excuse to go get the cabin in the woods, do it. Um, but I have done retreats where it's like, well, I'm going to work in libraries and coffee shops for the mornings. And then I'm going to go home for lunch and I'm going to, work in my business. I'm going to do the editing. I'm going to run the business. Um, but having a clear idea of why you are retreating. What is it you want to focus on? And having some sort of loose plan of maybe you're going to look at the basic business data. Am I making money? Who are my clients? Or maybe you're going to retreat and work on some blog posts for a week, or figure out, I want to do an email marketing program. What does that look like? And so you're going to take time to just schedule yourself to do it, right? Block out your calendar. Don't take meetings. Don't take the works, try not to schedule work. If you're like me, as soon as you walk away from the desk, the clients want you, which is nice, but doesn't let me work on my business. So I really have to schedule it and say, no, it's like I'm on vacation. You can't talk to me. And that's also, I think, why, like, if I do something like where I'm just going to do mornings, it's a little bit easier to balance everything. But make it what works for you, and find something fun, right? What would encourage you? I like working at different libraries. I like working at different coffee shops, and maybe you're going to post it on social media and just to make yourself go and do it. But and reward yourself. Reward yourself afterwards for having done that. Whatever that reward might look like for you, whether it's a glass of wine or an extra long workout at the gym, or some fabulous new book, because we know everyone's publishing books all the time. What book have you wanted? Go get it. Treat yourself.
Can I piggyback and ask, is there a schedule that you suggest, like quarterly, monthly, weekly? What's worked for you in the past?
At least quarterly, I think, and that can be just a few hours one day. I try and block out CEO days, so that's where I know I'm going to work on the strategy of my business, and it might be just a morning once a quarter. I certainly do with my mastermind group, the quad. We do a week once a year where we look at all the big stuff. So the more you're looking at, the more time you need, but the more often you do it in small chunks, the less time it takes. And I found at least quarterly helps. I really like to be able to do it monthly when I can, but that's not always possible. So quarterly at least, along with a bigger annual review.
That makes sense. It's hard to keep up with it monthly, yeah.
It is.
All right, we have a couple sort of related questions. It seems like folks in the chat are super curious about your experience of using business coaches. So could you talk a little bit more about that? And here are some of the specific questions related to that. For instance, how did you decide if one of them wasn't working for you? Like, when was it time to move on? What were the benefits? Did you work with sort of general business coaches or people who were like knowledgeable about professional services like editing? Like, how did that whole experience go for you?
So I think if you're going to do coaching, you have to know what you're looking to get out of it first. It's kind of like therapy. Why am I going? So knowing what your questions are or what you want to get out of it is really important. And so you can find a good fit. I worked with Malini, I'm going to butcher her last name, Devadas. I don't think she doesn't offer coaching anymore. But I worked with her for several months, and we looked at my editing business. And this is where I was feeling like I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. And she had a lot of great exercises for helping me kind of dig into what my interests are. But as a fellow editor, it was really great to have someone who understood my business.
Okay.
But I've also done coaching with through the Small Business Association here in the States, SBA. They offer free business coaching, and it was a whole different level of looking at my business, because these were business people who ran what I think of as real businesses, where they had employees and P&L statements. And I learned a lot about how to think about my business. I went in, I wanted help with marketing, and we really just looked at uh, bigger questions like editing is a very thin margin kind of business. So how do you approach that and um, not spend yourself into the poorhouse and looking at those kinds of bigger picture items. So it was a really different experience. And I learned a lot, but certainly knowing what you're going in for, um, and making sure that the coach you're working with can help you with those things. And I knew it was time to be done when you have sessions where you don't have anything to say. Where you go, yep, did that, I'm good. And it really did feel like therapy. I would know I was done with with therapy for a while when I would go in and I just would have really nothing to complain about. I'd have nothing to purge. Okay, I'm feeling balanced. I probably don't need this anymore.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say on coaching?
And, if that answers folks'
All right,
questions.
I think it does. Let's see. So you mentioned that you did some coaching around marketing, and we have someone wondering, when you were first starting out your business, was it easier to market to like corporations and organizations or to individuals? Um, how did you feel about that in your marketing?
So for me, it was easier to market to corporations because that's where I came from. I had had a corporate job. That's where my network was. So those are the folks I was talking to already. This was also the early days of social media. So you there's a lot more attention paid to individuals. Um, but I think what becomes easy is this, where is your network, right? And so if you're where you want to go with your editing, if your editing niche aligns with your network, that's going to be much easier. It's a lot more work to build a new network in a completely different area. It's not impossible. You can certainly do it, but it is just going to take more time. And you're looking for any connection you can make. Um, but yeah, I think it's where you're coming from that
Okay,
makes something easy or not.
right. That makes sense because then you also can take advantage of word of mouth marketing if you're using an existing network.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. You need that.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We have a question about tracking statistics for your business. What kind of statistics do you track over time? Do you have a special software for that that you really love and would want to recommend? And what have you found important to track that maybe wasn't obvious to you to begin with that like has become a really key thing?
So I love data. My problem is not tracking everything because I don't need everything. How much time have I wasted? And in fact, I just gave a talk at the ACES VCon a couple of days ago about some key data to track your editing speed, um, a lot of information around your leads. So not just like what kind of leads you get, but um, your estimates for editing speed and time and price, and then your actual. So you know, so you can start to learn how accurate you are and make some things more accurate, but also why you lost out on a lead or why you won it. What are good sources of leads for you so that you can do more of what works and get rid of what doesn't. And then I talked about categorizing your clients by financial value. There's lots of ways to categorize clients, and you can certainly categorize them in more than one way. But I think it's really valuable to know which clients are sustaining your business, are the ones that are giving you the most work. They are the ones who help you pay the bills every month, right? You can count on them, or and then different levels of how much a client sustains you or does not. And just looking at your business that way to see why you're earning what you're earning, where your opportunities are. So those are all good. Um, I use, for software, I essentially use spreadsheets. I use Coda, where I've built some custom spreadsheets that just track a lot of data. But I'm pulling it in from my invoices and my timesheets. So I'm tracking a lot with income. And because I have subcontractors, I'm tracking their earnings and my earnings and how much work they're doing versus how much I am to see what the shape of my business is. And I'm doing that every month. What else am I tracking? The number of leads that come in, I'm looking at that data. So those are pretty solid for me. I used to track a lot with social media, and it just really wasn't telling me a lot. There's a lot of what are called vanity data in there. Yes, it's great that so many people saw this. What did it do for my business? Because while it's nice, that people like stuff and share stuff, it's what's the connection to my business? Because I am spending my time doing it and I have got to make that time worthwhile. So there was a lot of just tracking things that did not help. And I just stopped. I just stopped. I think at the end of this year, it's going to be looking at what I do on social media and what might need to change. Um, I certainly changed a lot when the book first came out, and now I think I need to shift gears and do something a little different because I'm kind of overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I love the idea of vanity data. That's funny. All right. Do we have other questions? Um, Someone wants to know, returning to the idea of coaching, if you
Mhm.
enjoyed it. It certainly sounds like you did.
I did. I did. I enjoyed coaching. Like I said, I have a mastermind group, and so we're talking business a lot, and I love that. I just, I really love the kind of the nuts and bolts of business, and so just talking to somebody else about it is fun, and it's especially fun when we're working on my business.
So you would say that making sure that you enjoy it is actually part of the fit with a coach, like if you're having a good time.
I think, I don't think it has to be the most joyous thing you've ever done, but you should not feel uncomfortable.
Hmm.
If you're not willing to talk about some sensitive data, if you're not finding yourself in a spot where you can really listen to the coach, they might not be a good fit for you. You should definitely feel like you're communicating well. It's a good business relationship.
Yeah,
Um, but it does help if you enjoy the process, like anything, right? You're more likely to do it. But sometimes it's just like going to the gym. You go because this is the thing you have to do to keep healthy, and that's okay.
right. Investing in your future self.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't see other questions at the moment. What's your next book? Did you enjoy this? Do you want to write another? Like, what are
I
you up
did
to
enjoy it.
next?
No, I did enjoy it. I don't know that Chicago would want to do another book. I think they should because there's so much more to explore about freelance editing. Like I said, I was keeping a list
Hmm.
of topics I want to explore. I have started, I do talks like these and I do webinars, but I've started hosting webinars for myself. Um, and I'm doing more of those, which lets me explore topics I want to explore. And that leads to offering asynchronous courses, which I'm enjoying doing. I have a workbook that has been, I don't know, 85% done for at least a year now
Hmm.
that goes with the book.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
I just have to actually finish it.
Is the workbook going to come out through Chicago as well, or will that be through yourself?
That's through myself. Yeah,
Okay.
that's, university presses don't make a huge amount of money and they're
No.
they're very focused on their thing. But they're very supportive when I say, well, this is what I want to do. You know, go to
Nice.
town.
All right. Should we pass it back over to Jen?
Sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. This was an excellent conversation. I learned a lot. I took notes. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did too. So yeah, let's do some wrapping up. Give me a second here. I'll take the spotlight off so you can relax a little bit. So yeah, on behalf of EFA and Editors Canada, thank you, Alex, for hosting the conversation today. Really, really appreciate that you volunteered your time, and all the thoughtful questions that you brought to the group and to Erin. And thank you,
You're
Erin,
welcome.
so much for attending and agreeing to chat with us. It was really fantastic. Yeah, so I'm going to stop the recording.